Welcome to Irondale Brewing. Today we're going to talk about the Mighty Mill 3-roller. Mostly I wanted to do this video, not for purposes of reviewing the mill because I haven't even used it yet, but hopefully to save people a little bit of time in assembling it. The instructions, in my opinion, are not great. I couldn't find good photos, so it took a little bit of head scratching, and I just thought if I could save everybody else the half hour staring at it trying to figure out the right way to assemble the parts, it would probably be helpful. So the only thing you have to really assemble is this hopper part. And I didn't film myself putting it together because I ended up taking a couple of runs at it, probably my own lack of patience getting it put together. But the key is basically the front. You have two types of parts for this hopper. There's the front and back. They're the same. One has the logo on it, one doesn't. And then there's these side parts. Just make sure that the lip of the front and the back is on the outside. And this part you can't do wrong, but just kind of pay attention to it as far as which side's which. This flare down here, you want that going out. And then once that's put together, there's this rubber piece that goes around the top. Oh yeah, and I should talk about the finger protector down in there. Just make sure that's, again, it can only go in one way, but I just thought, personally, photos would have saved me a lot of time. And the photos and the instructions that come with it are pretty awful. That's kind of how that fits together, just with 12 little screws and bolts, or nuts, I should say. And then once this is all together, basically on the mill itself, let's see how I can best show this. There are two screws, one on either side. I don't know how you can see it, but this one sticks out, so you can see that better. The one at the top there. And basically you just need to unscrew those a little bit, loosen them up. To give yourself a little bit of space to put the hopper on, which I will do now since I have pre-loosened. I think with all this stuff put together correctly, this should work okay. Alright, so I gotta adjust that right one a little bit here, but apologies if it gets weird with camera angles. I'm still figuring all this stuff out. Okay, so that one needs to be loosened a little bit more, it looks like. And on one side it's not sunken in. On the other side it is. I don't know why that is, but that's the way it is. And you can probably see this, but the notch there just slides over the space between the nut and the inside wall of the... Just stick this in a little bit. There we go. Sorry, I didn't finish my sentence. Inside wall of the mill there. Okay, so I got that one in, and hopefully I can adjust this one. Fit in there. There we go. Alright. Alright, I am going to have to grab in there with a pair of needle nose pliers if I can, which gets a little bit awkward with the finger protector in there. I decided to go the safe route. If you want to play it dangerously, you can leave that out. Not telling you to do that. Okay, get this tightened up. Alright, do the same on the other side. Can't really see down in there. Sorry, I'll show the end result. It's probably clear enough, but... And again, this is, it's not rocket surgery. It's just... I thought the photos and the instructions could have been much better, and I thought if this saves somebody a little bit of time. Or maybe I'm the only one that thought they were bad. Okay, so anyway, with those screws tightened, tip this up as you can see down in there. I think I can do this. Then the hopper is attached to the actual mill. All right, and then I think the next thing is adjusting and putting the hand crank on. The hand crank is easy enough. It just has a little screw there. Try to get that to focus. And basically, if I think it's probably unscrewed to begin with. Nope, it's screwed in to begin with. Basically, you just unscrew that, put that on there, or you can leave it off. I've seen differing things. This looks to me like a 1/4 inch size for a drill. It turns really easily, just so you know. So unless for me, I do small batches of 2.5 gallons typically. So I'm going to try it with a hand crank to begin with. And I may have already said this, or I'm doing this in chunks. So if some of this is redundant, I apologize. But main thing is don't get super high torque, high speed setting on your drill. Let's get something that's nice and gentle. But I will do another video of actually using it, or I may tack it on the end of this one, depending on when I brew next and the timing of that. And I'll also talk about how you adjust things. The other reason I got this 3-roller mill is it looks like it's pretty easy to adjust. Basically, on the side here, you can see there's this knob down there. Let me see if I can show you better. But there's that setting knob there that lets you, sorry, bump the camera, set the gap in the mill. And there's one on each side, and basically you just unscrew this set bolt screw, I don't know what you'd call that, set it to the same on either side, and it goes pretty fine. I think, you know, typically for brewing a bag you do something like 0.03. I'm going to start there and see how that goes, and hopefully that will give me better results than I was getting with the pre-crushed grains. And like I said, obviously that'll also give me the option of getting grains well ahead of time and just having them ready to go and not worry about them spoiling since they've already been crushed. I think that's about it for this one. I may tack on actually crushing the grains because I think I'm going to brew in the next couple of days, so we'll see how that plays out. But if not, I guess I'll see you in the next one. Hopefully that will save somebody some time. I probably said this as well, but this does seem like a super solid mill. It gets a lot of good reviews online, so all my griping about the poor instructions aside, I think I'm going to be really happy with this mill. So since I do have a brew day tomorrow, I figured I'd go ahead and get this mill set the way I want it for brewing a bag. This particular mill, according to the instructions, which I'm assuming are accurate on this point anyway, can go between 0.025 inches, which is 0.64 millimeters, to 0.1 inches, which is 2.54 millimeters. Brewing a bag, obviously you want it kind of as tight as you can get it. Most of the stuff I see online says like 0.03-ish, so I may, you know, dial it up just slightly from the tightest this one will go, but that should be better than what kind of the random grinds I've been getting from the online sources when I tell them to pre-mill the grains, which, fair enough, you know, on their part, it's, you know, they don't know that you're doing brew in a bag or not. It would be nice if they'd ask and could customize the grind for you, but, you know, that's probably asking a lot. So anyway, to adjust this, which I hope you can see, there's just these screws here. There's one on each side, and you just loosen those. I don't know how. This is the first time I've done this. I don't know why I always film myself doing stuff for the first time. So you can learn along with me. And then there's basically an adjustment on either side, which I'll check to make sure you can see that. Probably, again, I got this on a tripod and I don't want to move it, but basically this knob here is the adjuster, and it shows the measurements down there. So let me flip this around. And oh, by the way, since I will be including this in the video where I put that hopper together, part of the frustration, I'll include these photos here, is if you look at the photos online, they actually show the thing being put together incorrectly. The side plates are on the outside, and you can see in the photos that you know, the problem you run into is it doesn't go down in there. So just beware of that. Like I said, hopefully me suffering through that, if you happen to see this video, will save you some time. So basically I've got these both loosened, and I'm just gonna turn this knob. Sorry, I keep flipping it around on you. I'm probably getting in the way, but basically turn the adjustment knob. I have to get in here and look, and it looks like, sorry, I'm just trying to see where what's small and what's okay. So it looks like this direction is the small, and that's the large. So I'll have to look down in here and see what I'm doing. And basically, obviously, you have to do it on both sides to get them to match. Otherwise, I assume that would cause problems. If the two sides didn't match, I assume stuff would be misaligned. So I'm just going to turn this and kind of see what happens. I don't see... The interesting thing is... Oh, there. Okay. So there is an indicator on this knob, thankfully. So you probably can't see it, but it's down here. There's a notch on the knob that shows you where you are at currently, which is what I was looking for. It's just a little bit hard to see. especially when I'm doing it at this angle, trying not to just show you the top of my head. So basically, since the smallest on this is 0.025, I'm just going to go ahead and turn it all the way. And it moves super easily. You can actually, oddly enough, turn it past. That's not good. That's a little bit strange, honestly. So the interesting thing is, that's a little frustrating. Basically, you can turn it past the maximum on here, either direction. So I'm going to have to verify that it is doing what it purports to be doing based on the knobs. But that's a little bit, I would have hoped it would have stopped. Now, when I adjust one side, I can see, if you look down in there, you wouldn't be able to see this on camera, so I won't bother lifting this thing up. But you can see it's like the bottom roller is a little bit out of whack now that I've only done one side. And oddly enough, it came with the two sides not at the same spot, which is also frustrating because now I am unsure if the markers were correct, which is, yeah, because you can just keep spinning this. That's a little disappointing. I may have to do a little bit of research and see what the deal is. For now, for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to go with, hey, they probably just had the two sides out of whack from one another. I'm hoping is what's going on. But anyway, you adjust it to what you want. I adjusted it to the smallest it'll go, and then turn these back in to lock it in. It's very nice and easy to adjust. The fact that you can just spin the knob endlessly is a little bit frustrating. And given that the markings, where the knobs were on either side was not the same when it shipped, it makes me question what's going on a little bit. I'm going to flip this up and see if you can kind of see underneath here what's going on. So, I mean, I don't see anything visibly completely out of whack here. The roller's not at an angle or anything. And obviously when I don't know this for a fact, but based on what I'm seeing here, and I'm assuming what happens is when you adjust, it's moving that bottom roller. This is a 3-roller model up or down, depending on how big a gap you want. And that seems to be, the knobs are attached to that one. So I'm going to hope that's okay. I will fire it up tomorrow morning for the brew day. And I guess we will see. If I hear a horrible metallic noise that doesn't sound healthy, hopefully it won't wreck the mill, but we'll see where we wind up tomorrow morning. Okay, hopefully this works. The camera's acting a little bit weird this morning, but it is brew day. So I'm going to revisit this mill situation that I was talking about yesterday. So basically, the concern I had is that these rollers on the side, this thing will autofocus. I guess not. I should just use my phone. This fancy new camera is frustrating. So these adjustment wheels on the side, like I was saying, you can just kind of keep spinning them. What it seems to do as you do that is it'll just flop back and forth in here between. So I have it set to the smallest right now. And I'll just do one side, and hopefully you can see this as I do that. The roller spins, but it also, the gap, you can see that right up in there, the gap widened. So that's at roughly at the widest setting. And then if I move it back to the smallest, you can see the gap decreases. So the weird thing is I can keep spinning it. So right now, I'm not able to see this, but it's at the smallest, which is 0.025. I think. Let me double check that. Yes, so that's at the smallest, 0.025, and you can see that little notch on the knob there. I can keep turning it clockwise, and when it hits the other side, the gap is, and that's the biggest it'll go. Sorry, this thing does not seem to want to autofocus. There we go. That's the biggest it'll go. And you can just keep spinning back to the smallest. I don't like, to me, it's like the thing should stop when it's at the kind of outside parameters of what it can do. But it does seem to do what I would guess. So or what you'd think it would do. I just don't like the functionality of the knobs. Doesn't give me confidence that it's correct. But anyway, so I have those both set to smallest. I thought I'd just revisit that before I do the actual grinding of the grain. Sorry, it's early yet. Haven't had coffee, but we're getting the brew day going pretty early here. So I guess I'll do the grinding next. Moved over to the other side of the garage to make sure the dust doesn't get in the brewing side. We'll do it in the messier side. So there, you can see this is the mill on a 5-gallon, I think that's 5-gallon, might be 6, but I think it's 5-gallon bucket. The thing I do really like about this mill is it's designed to fit on one of these buckets, which is handy. You don't have to build your own base for it. It's a nice solid metal base, and you can see I'll try to go around here. It just fits right in there nicely. The way those, the lip that hangs down there is not a lot of room for it to move around while you're milling. So anyway, that's what it looks like on a bucket. I'm going to get some sacrificial grain to give it its first run just to make sure that nothing horrible happens, and then we'll get the grains for the actual batch I'm doing today and run those through. So I'm going to use this kind of leftover Pilsner Zero Viking malt I have, partially because I don't think I'll use it for anything before it is a little bit old, and also because this is the batch of Kolsch that I did that the original gravity came out pretty low, and so I'm curious if I run it through the mill here if it comes out with a finer grind. So we'll go ahead and dump, maybe not all of it, we'll dump some in there. Yeah, we'll do all of it. Why not? Give it an actual test. Put this off to the side. Sorry, I'm doing doing this on the fly so I can get decent angles while I do this. So anyway, I should have said also I'm using the hand crank just for the first run to see how this goes. And in theory, it's set to the smallest, which is 0.025 inches. I don't remember what that is in millimeters. Get that evened out a little bit. And we'll just give this a crank and see what happens. I'll try to... All right, well, it's working. It is a little bit tougher to turn than I would have thought. Also, the handle is a little bit loose. I'm going to take a pause here and maybe scoot that in. The reason I had it out that far is because it starts to hit the side of the bucket, but maybe if I switch it around to where the handle on the bucket isn't the part sticking out there, it'll work better. 1 second. So either I am doing something wrong or the handle situation is not going to work. I'm going to have to grab a drill. So what happens is no matter where I position the handle on here, because there's, you can put it all the way out. There's kind of a middle spot, or you can put it all the way in. No matter what I do, you can't, and I've tightened it as much as I, without feeling like I'm going to, break something. It's tightened down as tight as the screw will go, hand tightening it. But what happens is, as you turn the handle just moves, but the gears don't turn on the mill. So I don't know if that is, I don't know what's going on there. It could be too that the setting is too tight to do it this way. But anyway, I'll mess with that. I'm just kind of, narrating this as I go to see if that's helpful to anybody else if you get one of these. I tried a couple of things. The drill situation, I got to take another run at. I need to find the right size chuck to make sure I don't do anything crazy. And I probably want to check the manual on my drill here to make sure that I'm on the right setting. It has, the various torque and speed settings, and you're supposed to do pretty low. I did loosen it up to 0.035 from 0.025 and put the handle back on there, and that seemed to do the trick. I'd like to get it finer, but I think it's getting it pretty fine. But basically, and the handle isn't super easy to crank. In fact, I don't know if I can do this one-handed or not. Yeah, you just got to kind of stabilize things as you go. But anyway, I gave it a few turns, and it does the job, and it's not super hard to turn. And we'll see what the grind looks like when I'm done here in a second. Sorry for the bad camera work. I need to get better about planning and tripod and all that good stuff. But anyway, get all the grain down in there. Okay, so, and we'll have to, you have to do a before and after shot. I'll see if I can grab that from the video when I do this. But basically, let's take a look and see what we wound up with. I'm going to pause for 1 second to move the mill off the bucket. I feel like we wound up with substantially better for brew in a bag grind here. Let me set this down. But that is much finer than it was out of the bag. In the bag, as we saw at the beginning, some of them didn't even look like they were cracked barely. You can see this is much finer. That's looking, I think, better for brew in a bag purposes. It's not, completely pulverized or anything, but there aren't any kind of big holes that, at least when I first got that bag of grain, was a little suspect. And so I wasn't totally shocked that the gravity came out pretty low on that beer. But anyway, I think this will work. I'll probably I may turn it down to like 0.3, 0.03, see if I can get that working better. May dig around and find a drill, but we'll do the real grains for the brew day here in a second. All right, it's time to weigh out the grains for the brew day today. We're making a strawberry wheat. This is an experiment beer with the Brewtubers Brew Club. And basically the idea is that several members of the club make the same beer with one variant. In this case, it's strawberry, and it's how you add the strawberry, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But basically, this wheat beer has 4.4 pounds of Northeast Gold malt. Excuse me while I pull up the recipe here again to remember the other amounts of these other two, because it was pretty weird. 13.6 ounces of white wheat, and 1.7 ounces of Munich Type 2. And cashmere hops, let's see, it looks like, yeah, at 60, 15, and 10, roughly quarter ounce. And I'm making a 2.5 gallon batch. And that's pretty much it. And WLP 320 for the yeast. So I'm going to take these over and get them in the mill. And there's the grains in the mill. I misspoke earlier. It's 4 pounds, 4 ounces of the gold malt, not 4.4 pounds. Only makes a difference of a few ounces, but that would be incorrect for the recipe. So I measured right, stated it incorrectly. I did decide to go ahead and try the drill. I put the mill back to its lowest or its smallest setting at 0.025 inches. Found it's a 1/4 inch chuck here. I have this the drill set to what I think are low, unless one is high. But lowest torque, lowest speed, and the trigger on this thing is pretty sensitive to adjustments as you go. So I'm going to try this and see what happens. So let's just give it a shot here. Basically, with the handle off of there, chuck goes on there, and it fits nicely. We'll just okay. It is spinning. I hear stuff happening. I'm going to stop here. And so I can stabilize the mill in case craziness happens, but I'll let you know how this goes. And I should say also, these grains were pre-milled when I ordered them because I didn't have a mill yet and didn't, after my last batch, sequence of events had low gravity, had already ordered these grains, decided to get a mill. So I'm just going to run these through because as we saw with that sacrificial grain, I think it does help. There are some chunks in there or some pieces in there that are bigger than they probably should be for brew in a bag. So I'll get this milled and show you the result. And grains are milled. I did find on that drill, which is a DeWalt 20 volt brushless something, I don't know. I did have to turn the torque up to high when you have to drill on, or when you have the size on the mill set to the smallest. Otherwise, it would just do the thing where it's like it hits resistance and it stops, working, so it doesn't strip whatever you're trying to do, which is good. But I did have to have the torque on high. I kept the speed on low and kept the trigger pressure pretty light on it just to make sure I didn't go too crazy on it. But I think that did a pretty good job. And compared to what we started with that you saw at the top, I think we are in much better shape for brew in a bag. That looks pretty darn good. I don't know. My first try with this, a lot of people online say 0.03. I figure what the heck, I'll just max it out and see how it goes. Some, other people say just put it as small as you can get it. The credit card, test. A lot of people say that. The problem I have with that is I have, the couple of credit cards I have, one is super thick and one is paper thin. So I don't think that's a good gauge. Get a mill that has measurements on it and just probably put it, as low as it'll go, or 0.03 seems to be a pretty conventional wisdom on that. The only other thing I'll say about the mill, worked pretty well, went pretty smoothly once I got the drill in there. The handle, I don't think you can just, I think the reason the handle was like popping out as I was trying to do it is because it's just, there's too much resistance at that small of a setting. The only other thing I'll say is this rubber thing. If you look at it funny, this thing pops off. So that's kind of irritating. It should be tighter or something. The only purpose this serves, I think, is basically because the edges of this are sharp so you don't cut yourself. But I don't know. That's kind of annoying that I had to futz around with that. I may just ignore it and live dangerously. But yeah, I think we are looking good on the grain. So let's get to brewing. All right, so before I start brewing, I thought I'd give a little roundup of the Mighty Mill review. I didn't know where I was going with that when I started. It started with the assembly, and I guess it kind of turned into a full-blown, hey, here's me, after putting it together, grinding some grain. Overall, I like it. I think it's a really nice mill. The price point for it is good. I didn't do it, I did some research into mills. I knew I didn't want to spend a ton of money on a mill, but I didn't want to get one that was crappy either. The Mighty Mill seems to fit that bill. I like that the grain hopper and that nice metal base are included. The operation of it is very smooth. It seems to grind nicely. As I said in the other parts of this video, the problems I have with it are the settings are weird. The fact that you can just kind of spin the knob endlessly, that's strange. Like, make it stop at the, at the boundaries of the mill. The rubber thing around the top is a little bit of an irritant. But other than that, it's a nice mill. I'd say if you're in the market for a mill and don't want to spend, $500 or $600 on something like that new Spike mill, this is a really good one. I did get the 3-roller because I think for brewing a bag, that's going to be better. Seems to, the reviews I've seen of the 2-roller seems to bear that out, that the 3-roller is just better and worth the extra money. So yeah, but overall, and I should say also, this wasn't sent to me. I just bought it with my own money. Overall, it's a nice mill. I would recommend it as long as you're willing to put up with those little irritants. I'm sure any mill is going to have irritants. And it works really nicely with the drill. And, that's not a super fancy contractor type drill, but it's not a super low end one either. It's kind of middle of the road DeWalt that had enough horsepower to do a really good job on the smallest setting. So anyway, that's a little bit of a haphazard, poorly thought out review / assembly of the Mighty Mill. But if you're looking for a mill, I think it's a pretty good one. See you in the next one.